the ashes, the spirits light up the night, looking down.
Now, from the Untold Radio Network, it's Untold Radio AM with Doug and Alex Hychek.
Hello.
Hey. I'm hitting the wrong buttons all the time.
That's okay. We'll get there.
So, hello, Alex.
Hi.
Hello.
How's it going, Dad?
Hello, our growing audience of amazing people in chat and our live audience. I would imagine a lot of people are live, but they're not in chat, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, don't be shy and join.
Say
The
hello.
more times you join chat, the more people get to know you and greet you, and it's kind of a big family.
Yeah.
And speaking of family, we lost Uncle Bones passed away last week, which was super sad. He was always in chat, like
He
always.
was.
Yeah. So anyhow, that's my prayers go out to his family and friends.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so tonight we have John Pickering. I've known John for 25 years. Great guy. Did research with him back, like 2000 maybe.
Wow. That far back.
Yeah, maybe even earlier. Anyhow, and John has never, ever done a podcast. So everything he tells you is new. Everything he shares is new. You're not going to hear this stuff anywhere else. And for instance, he's gone on, expeditions with even David Ellis.
Right. And we do have some sound clips to share tonight.
Yeah. So it'll be cool.
That David shared.
So let's see. Yeah, he was like, "Oh, you got John on tonight?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm going to tell you, it's taken me 2 years to talk John into coming on.
Well, appreciate him coming on.
Yeah, so this is a 2-year deal. Next, I want to mention that me and you, and I believe Brother Blaine,
yes,
who's a Bigfoot researcher, will be at the Marinette. How do you pronounce that? Yeah, Marinette.
Yeah.
Bigfoot and Paranormal Convention, where I am one of the speakers along with Chad Lewis. And I don't know who the other guys are except for Barnaby. Barnaby Jones is one of our own. So we're kind of mixing Bigfoot with the paranormal, right? At this convention. They probably mix like oil and vinegar, but whatever.
Or peanut butter and jelly.
Or peanut butter and jelly. I don't know.
Depends.
Anyhow, I'm doing my talk on Bigfoot, so
good.
Maybe there'll be one person listening.
No, there'll be a lot of people.
And what's really cool about this convention that Barnaby is putting on is you can watch this virtually for only $5.
That's cool.
So that's that's cheap for a virtual deal. So I think even tickets at the door are only $20. And I think the highest ticket's $60.
So they should be able to see you live, right?
Yes, they will see me do my talk.
$5. Come on, guys. It's a steal.
Yeah, and I would imagine that they need the help. These things are not cheap to put on.
No.
It's being held at the Best Western Conference Center.
I'm sure it'll be lovely.
And me and you are going to drive, aren't we?
Yeah.
Road trip. It's a road trip right now.
No.
Don't put me in a sardine plane again.
No.
You're not doing that. Oh, by the way, we're not driving. We're flying. Like you did last time when we went to Ohio. I thought it was all for a road trip. And I think you guys might remember the story of the plane that got smaller and smaller.
Yes.
Yeah, anyhow, it was a fun trip, though. We had a blast in Ohio. And then I want to thank Pat Collins for sending me the Jeepers Creepers DVD. So I plugged that baby in, it fired up. It was working great. About halfway through, there must be a little scratch. It stopped with the monster with its arm, like it was like right up to the part where they run over him like 3 times, and he's laying there, and you don't know, is he coming back to life? I don't know. I've never seen the movie, but it ended right there, and I tried everything. I tried skipping over it, and it keeps locking up right on the claw of the monster. It kind of looks like a gargoyle, I guess.
Yeah, a little bit.
Did you see the movie?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay. I'll get it to work. Maybe I can buff out. I don't want to buff out scratches.
Yeah. Buffer good.
Unless Pat was evil and just sent me half. Just purposely like scratched his DVD, so I couldn't finish it. Yeah, I'm just Pat. Anyhow, I am not taking the trash out tonight. That I do know. So as we approach 10,000 subs, we ask that if you haven't subscribed, please do. Takes 2 seconds to hit the button.
2 seconds.
You have to sign in.
Yeah.
Your Facebook account, or I think you can use almost anything to sign into Facebook nowadays. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Like do they take Instagram accounts?
Oh, they take everything. They take
Google
MasterCard.
accounts. No, it's free. You don't need a credit card.
Well, if you want to give us money, I won't turn it down.
No. And then we have added if you do want to be a member, that does cost a little bit of money. God knows we need it. If you want to play, do you have that video?
Yeah, I do.
The new little short video on members.
Yeah.
We'll just play this. I won't play it every week, but we'll just play it. It's new, but it goes into what you get if you're a member. And there'll be a lot of new, bonus content and webinars. And go ahead and just play it.
Hello, members. This is Chris. I have a cool news flash from the Untold Radio Network. Starting this May 2024, members of the Untold Radio Network will be receiving special after-hours show content notifications, plus a chance once a year to hang out on camera in a webinar setting with your favorite podcast personality. And because we have 12 different shows, it means that each month you will get to meet different podcast hosts. This face-to-face meeting will allow you to discuss anything, ask questions, offer content suggestions, and get to know all of our hosts personally. Plus talk to them face-to-face through the magic of YouTube Live. Again, this is for members only. And don't worry, you will be notified well in advance of a simple sign-up reservation for that particular host or hosts. Plus, member-only after-hour shows will be available in our reserved members-only section on YouTube. Each podcast will be producing at least one after-hour show or more per year, and one webinar meet and greet per year. We sincerely thank you for being a loyal listener of your favorite Untold Radio Network shows and becoming a loyal member. Other perks include you getting top priority in chat, guest interactions, plus getting the answers to your great questions from our hosts and guests. There is even more perks to members, exclusive wallpapers, special discounts on books, merch, and more. So stay tuned for new announcements. This is Chris, signing off from the Untold Radio Network. We will be talking soon.
Pretty cool.
Pretty
And
awesome.
we already threw up a bonus show, didn't we?
We just did. We're
And
the
we'll be
first
doing
one.
more. Maybe tonight we'll do another bonus show. We don't know. We're just going to do them when we think it's going to be a good bonus show, which we call After Hours.
Right.
Basically, a continued conversation. And we've got some content coming too, which that video didn't even mention. There'll be some new content videos. Going places, doing things, teaching. Okay, so in the news, there wasn't much. there was some grizzly bear attacks, which I do want to talk about. There
Yeah,
was a what? Well, oh yeah, that looks like he'd bite you. A 36-year-old British Columbia man suffered significant injuries during a grizzly bear attack that occurred as he and his father, they were apparently tracking a black bear with dogs, and this thing still attacked him. So apparently, the man was able to defend himself with a firearm. I would imagine that means he shot the grizzly, right?
Right.
Sure, he didn't hit it in the head with a buttstock.
No.
Anyhow, apparently they tracked this grizzly bear down and they found the bear dead. The guy's in stable condition, but that's not good. Then the same week, another grizzly bear attack on a man in Wyoming. And this happened at the Grand Teton National Park. And that's the second grizzly attack in less than a week. That's kind of maybe a little bit rare, huh? Park officials said they received a report on Sunday about a 35-year-old male visitor from Mass who was seriously injured by a bear in the area of the Signal Mountain Summit Road, the National Park Service said in a news release on Monday. Following an investigation, park officials have determined the incident was a surprise encounter with two grizzly bears. So there you go. Apparently he was airlifted too with serious but stable condition. So anyhow, heart goes out to people that enjoy the outdoors and end up almost food.
Yeah.
Which I thought we would do bear trivia tonight. So you can just keep that dang picture right up there.
Perfect.
First thing, I don't want to make bears to seem ferocious. They're not. Usually it's a defense thing. Usually attacks don't, you surprise a bear. And so we will be talking about ways to avoid and safety tips or even black bears during the trivia because it's that time of year, right? Right. Cheers. I need some cold water. Oh, man. Okay. So how many grizzly bears, Mr. Alex and chat, do you think live in the USA in 2024?
Like 100,000?
Is that your guess? I was going to give you choices, but no, I'm not. So you're saying 100,000?
What are my choices?
I'm not telling you. Just you said 100,000.
Oh, no. I should have waited.
So if anybody wants to take a guess how many grizzly bears, without cheating, it's more fun if you don't cheat. There are 55,000 to 60,000 grizzly bears in the U.S. in 5 states. Can you name those 5 states that have grizzlies, Alex? I can. Can you name one state that has grizzlies?
Alaska?
Yep, for sure. Yep, that's a good one. That's another one. I just mentioned one in mine. 2 of them in attack videos.
Talking about Wyoming?
Yep, Wyoming.
You said Massachusetts, right?
No, the guy was from. There's no grizzlies. There's no grizzlies out east. God forbid. Yeah, can you imagine a grizzly loose in New York?
Well, there's zoos.
No, okay. So it's Washington,
Yeah.
right? Northern Washington,
Yeah.
Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, and the great state of Alaska.
Yes.
So have the populations, have they tripled, quadrupled, or doubled since 1975 when they were listed as endangered?
Quadrupled.
Anybody else want to take a stab at that? People are like, Lori's like, you guys are giving Alex the answers. He's wrong.
Come on, guys. You got to help me out a little bit better.
So it's tripled. They've tripled since 1975.
Okay. That's close.
So even in 75, there was quite a few of them. I mean, it wasn't like down to 10 animals. So if you take 60,000 divided by 3, and there's still 20,000 of the critters roaming. It's not tiny.
No.
I mean, it's still quite a bit, but it's good to see them back. And apparently they are going to reintroduce the grizzly. I think I just read that too. Was it in Washington? Like put them around like in certain places. I wonder if people are unhappy about that. They scare me. I mean, grizzlies do scare me.
Yeah.
Black bears,
too.
not a problem. Okay, the total number of documented grizzly bear attacks over a 15-year period was what? Any guess?
Like 300.
300 is Alex's guess. It was 664 over the last 15 years.
That's not a lot.
In North America, there were either, take a pick, 183 or 122 in North America. Remember, this is worldwide.
183.
Yes, that's correct. Europe had either 350 or 291. People don't think about Europe as
No,
getting
they don't.
attacked by a grizzly.
Yeah. I would always think of like North America.
So was it 291 or 350?
291.
Yeah, you're reading. Yep. Well, it was 291. Quite a few people in chat got that one. Between 2020 and 2022, there were either 8 or 15 fatal grizzly attacks in North America. We're talking
8.
fatalities now.
I'd say 8.
8? You're right. There were 8. Nobody even gave you that. I don't see any answer there.
Yeah, because I can't trust.
Nice
the
going,
chat.
John. You're a little late to the game. Unless there's a delay in chat. I don't think there is.
No.
Okay. From 2015 to 2019, there were only 5, or was it 7 fatal attacks?
5 or 7 fatal attacks.
Yep. From 15
5.
to 19.
5.
5? You are wrong. It's 7. So if you're if you're in bear country, and that could be, black bear too. If you're in bear country, the best thing you can do is to do what? Do you want to talk and sing or bang pots and wear bells?
You want to do the bells and bang pots.
Bang pots and bells. Anybody in chat want to take a stab at that? Big Racer says make noise. Well, yeah, they're all make noise. Talk, sing, or the other 2 categories are bang pots and wear bells. What do they recommend?
Bang those pots.
They recommend talking and singing if you're hiking in bear country.
Really?
Yep. Not wearing the bells. I'd rather have you talking and singing.
Probably because it's not as offensive.
Well, then, yeah, it's probably not as offensive, but then they know for sure you're a human, right?
Yeah.
That's my guess. And then occasionally, another tip, you're supposed to say something loudly. Every once in a while, even go louder. Probably not scream, but maybe yell, "Hey, bear."
Hey, bear.
The idea is you don't want to surprise especially a grizzly, or a mama bear with her cubs. You never know. What type of bear might be the most dangerous and has killed the most people? Is it a grizzly, a black bear, or a sloth bear, or a spirit bear? It's 4 choices. Grizzly, black bear, sloth bear, or spirit bear.
Grizzly.
Grizzly? Polar, brown? It is a sloth bear in Asia.
Really?
Yep.
Never would have
In
guessed.
just to give you an example, in 1957, a sloth bear called the sloth bear of Mysore goes down in the record books as this bear single-handedly killed 12 people and mutilated 24 others.
Ooh,
That was one bear.
that is
All within
brutal.
2 minutes.
2 minutes?
No,
Just
I'm
bam.
joking on that. The bear was finally shot and killed by Kenneth Anderson, who was quoted as saying of this killer bear. So he got it. How many black bears do you think there are in the country? North America, I should say. That includes Canada.
Oh, okay. Is it close to like I don't know, it was like 500,000 or something?
That's not a bad guess. There's 750,000 in North America. And out of all those, they kill less than 1 or 2 people a year. 1 or 2 people a year die from 750,000 black bears.
Is it usually like camping? People leave food out?
Well, no, but is the answer 1 or 2 a year average? Die.
One.
Or is it 3? Sorry, 3 is another answer.
1.
You're saying 1? 1. I'm waiting.
1.
Or chat.
Come on, guys.
Yep, Mary Jo. She got it right. It's 1. Alex, did you say 1?
Yeah, I said 1.
So there's not much chance a black bear is going to get you. I mean, they have been known to go on some. There was one rampage, one black bear went on up at I think it was a rest stop up in Canada. They ended up really hurting a whole bunch of people, but it's rare, super rare. I think you have a better chance of dying from lightning or bee sting or obviously, I think the chance is like way exponentially more from a person. But so bears generally are pretty safe, and bears are moving into the neighborhood. I literally on our ring cameras right in my neighborhood, we got another black bear yesterday on the ring cameras. So they're living right in my neighborhood, which would have been unheard of 10 years ago. Totally unheard of. But they're here. They're moving back, and we need to get along with black bears. Because they're gonna den under your deck. They're gonna den right under that deck.
Yes, they
And
are.
I just respect them, keep your distance, but let them live.
Yeah, let them live.
You don't need to call the DNR and have them shot. Keep your bird feeders out of your backyard if you don't want them around. Okay, we've got a new little kind of a section. Sometimes I get a bunch of clips, and they're more of this. I find myself saying, WTF when I watch them. So I thought we'd add a section, and I believe you've made a little bumper.
I have.
For a WTF clips, and it does not mean what you think.
No, it doesn't.
It does not mean that. No, it does not. Go ahead and play here, bumper. See, it's just things that shouldn't have happened or shouldn't happen. We all see stuff like that on occasion. Did you see anything this week that was like, what the heck?
I saw a funny vanity plate.
Which was? Do you want to?
I don't remember.
You don't remember? Okay. That was Alex's highlight for the entire week. This is my son. This is my son. That's why I love him.
Well, it's only a Wednesday.
Okay. Well, yeah. You could still have a WTF.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead and play why this film has been chosen for clip 1. Sound good. And so apparently dogs can play baseball. I watched this and I'm thinking, how did this guy teach this dog? The dog must have wanted to do it. Go ahead and play it. And he's ready.
Whoa.
I mean, think about that. That's kind of a disconnect. That's so much different than just grabbing a ball with his mouth.
He hits it with the
I mean, he's
bat.
got to time it and he's got to hit it with a tool. So there you go. You want to play it one more time?
Yeah.
That's a nice hit. I'm sure he strikes out a few times.
Yeah.
Anyhow, the WTF clip number 2. The sound is fine. This is what happens when you see a giant blow-up animal on the loose. Right? This is something Alex would not see. Go ahead.
Oh my God, fuck! Oh my God! There's an elephant!
It's like an elephant. See, that's something that would never happen to you, right, Alex?
No.
And then, what are the chances of this ending up? I found both of these clips. Go ahead, play WTF clip number 2A. Sounds fine on this too. Well, maybe not. Well, yeah, go ahead and play it and then silence it. There might be some- Oops.
No, the duck!
It's a giant duck. All right, that's enough of that crap. What are the chances?
What are the odds?
Right? What are the odds? What clip was that? 3?
That was 2A.
Oh, it's 2A. All right, the next WTF clip. Sound is fine, and this is just a big nope.
Yeah, no. Oh, thank you.
This is his bare arm.
That's good. This is how you catch a swarm.
Man, you talk about
No way, man.
just, oh, God, I can't even comprehend
What,
it.
did he cover his arm in honey? Like,
Oh, hell no, I don't know. I have no idea. Anyhow,
look at that smile.
got far more courage than I ever would. All right. Next, WTF clip 4. Sound is good. These darn airboats. You ever ridden in an airboat? I have.
I think I've been in one before.
What?
Yeah.
They apparently can go anywhere. Watch this. I think that's worth a WTF award.
That's pretty solid flying, man.
Solid, man. He just drove right up on that trailer.
Right on the trailer.
Okay, WTF clip 5. Sound is fine. It's definitely one of those we're going to need a bigger boat, right? The ratio here is way off, like extremely off.
Oh, yeah!
That is a tiny boat.
It's like
Yeah. Oh, it's right. Oh. He's coming up river. He's gonna jump.
All right, that's enough of that. So me and do you remember Dave Regal?
Yeah.
All right. Me and Dave were fishing on a pond. I'm not going to say where. And we looked into something in a paddle boat. Because it was a pond, right? We're in a paddle boat. This thing pulled us around this pond. I think we fought whatever it was for, I don't know, an hour and a half. Till there was a crowd starting to gather on shore, and I cut the line. He has never forgiven me.
Oh, no.
No way we get this thing up.
Yeah, I know. What are you going to do about it?
Back and forth, back and forth. And, he had it hooked on like, maybe 10-pound line. It would have been all day. I had better things to do, so I cut the line. You ever feel that just streak? You just go chink. Look at me. Well, those pitchforks coming out of his eyes. All right. So, clip number 6. When you cannot unsee something, you will never look at a $5 bill ever the same. Every time you pay with a $5 bill, you're going to think of this clip. Go ahead and play it. No sound. You're not playing it.
It just came in as a picture. I don't know.
Whatever. There you go.
It's
Yeah, who? I don't even know.
Rambo. Rambo.
Yeah, Rambo. Yeah. It does look like him when you put the hair in the headband.
Yeah. It's like exact.
Yeah. So anyhow, next time you pay with a $5 bill, think of Rambo. That's the suggestion. All right. WTF clip 7. I don't know what in the heck. I don't even remember what it is. Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah, you don't need sound. This is crazy. This is the vehicle I need.
Look at those wheels.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. Looks like
That
you
looks
can
like
take that
that
anywhere.
would be fun.
You see
Go
the
anywhere.
drone following it? There's a drone.
No, I did not.
It's right. It just flies right.
I love fat tires,
Yeah.
but that's really fat. It's definitely a WTF.
It's a big boy.
WTF clip 8 bonus. What are they feeding these dudes? No sound either, by the way. These are koi fish.
Those are massive.
Yeah.
I've never
what
seen
the
koi
heck?
fish that big.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
How old can koi
I
fish
could
live?
eat that dog. I could eat
Oh,
that
yeah.
dog.
Yeah. Let me pet that dog.
Yeah. Anyhow, all right. That's it. I'll get better at this. I'll find some better. Do you want to run? I've got 3 little cute clips. Why don't we just run clip number 3? That's like clip 3 and clip 2, I think. Yeah, we'll do that. Oh, and you can do your bumper. I know you love that.
All right, let's bump it.
So let's just run clip 2.
Clip 2?
Well, go ahead.
A
Sounds
homeowner
good.
in the Pacific Northwest experienced an adorable moment from straight out of a Disney movie, and we want to warn you, the video you're going to see is pretty cute. A real-life Bambi and Thumper visited the backyard in Oregon. The homeowner shot the video earlier this month showing the curious fawn interacting with the little rabbit on his back porch. Once the two got to know each other, apparently they were fast friends, just like in the movie.
That's cute.
Too cute. And then clip 3. This is interesting. I had no idea there's an animal that sounds like a squeaky dog toy. Go ahead and play it. Sounds good. It's an alpaca.
It does sound exactly like a squeaky
exact.
dog toy. It's perfect.
Well, yeah, play it again. Isn't that interesting? How many people knew that?
Not me.
No,
Oh, yeah.
I know it wasn't you. All right, tech breakdown. Then we're going to get to, what do we got? Oh, well, we still have Doug's clips if you want, regular clips. Probably are a little more on the scientific end, if we have time. Let's see how quick we can get through tech breakdown.
All right, can I smash that bumper?
So, yeah, please. All right, Alex. Do you know what hex technology is?
No.
Have you ever heard of it? Anybody in chat ever heard of hex technology? It may make you a better Bigfoot researcher.
Okay. Lay it on me.
It might not. I don't know. Okay. And by the way, before I talk about this hex technology, David Ellis will do part 2 of the sound analysis, and we're going to do actually some voices compared to human next week. So that's all planned next week. So David's gonna, he blew my mind with this little example, a couple examples on this missing fundamental in Bigfoot sounds. So anyhow, that's next week. This week, we are going to talk something that's somewhat controversial. The people that seem to buy it seem to believe in it, and it works for them really well. The people that don't, if you go on the forums, like hunting forums and so on, they can get a little mean. Let's go ahead and throw up photo H1 and I'll explain. So what hex technology is basically a woven carbon fiber weave that blocks your EMR, the electromagnetic radiation coming off your body. That's made by your brain, it's made by your body, and it also is exaggeratedly and made it or exudes out of our body when we move a joint. Because think about it, you got to send an electrical signal, we all know that, to your fingers, right? You know, when you move your fingers, that took it's electricity, did that. So by wearing a certain type of clothing that blocks the EMR off your body, it supposedly turns you into an inanimate object that animals shouldn't be afraid of. So if you do a good job of descenting, and of course this clothing, this is underwear, I guess. But wear camouflage, they apparently cannot tell you from a inanimate object. Would that help in Bigfoot research? If what they're saying is true, I haven't tested this stuff. I do not own any of it. I have no idea, but I think it might be worth testing it. You know, if you got a little money you want to throw at this, I don't even know. I should have looked. Maybe Alex can look what a full suit costs, but I would imagine it's probably hundreds of dollars. That'd be my guess.
Yeah.
But anyhow, throw up photo 2H.
Photo 2H.
Yep, throw that up. The company's been around a while, since 2010. And I don't know why they call it heck. I don't know if that's the gentleman's name or because it rhymes with tech. I don't know. But once again, it's a carbon fiber cloth that supposedly blocks all electrical signals from your body. You know, would that help in Bigfoot research? What do you think, Alex?
I think we got to start getting creative.
There you go.
Some of the stuff.
There you go. Now we know birds use electrical currents of the earth to navigate, you know, to fly south. I'm pretty darn sure bears do, you know, because they can. I don't think they're remembering where an exact log is in the forest that produces ant pupae every year. I think they somehow are, you know, guided to it by some kind of GPS, magnetic GPS coordinates. I don't know. Who knows? A lot of mysteries with wildlife. We don't know much. So basically the clothing conceals your energy. So it's energy concealing clothing. I mean, the concept sounds sound to me. There are guys that absolutely, without a doubt, believe in this stuff. And there's some prominent biologists that do, and there's other biologists that think, it's a bunch of baloney. Animals couldn't possibly sense you from more than a few feet away. Even a shark that uses electricity to find prey couldn't, you know, sense you from beyond 3 feet, you know, even without this. But so those are the arguments.
Yeah. I think it's worth giving this a shot.
Yeah, well, maybe so, you know. And if you and your buddy decide to try it and you start having way more Bigfoot encounters, way more wildlife encounters, I don't know. Even that doesn't prove it, right? So apparently you're going to need to wear, maybe a base layer of it, an outer layer, face mask, hat, gloves, and then apparently you're electrically invisible.
That's really cool.
It
I didn't know you could wear a suit like this and do
I think,
that.
how many people in chat have kind of a yes or no? How many people have ever heard of this clothing? I know if you're a hunter, you probably have, but if you're not a hunter, yeah, I like Grasshopper's idea. Just cover yourself in tinfoil. It would basically do the same thing. You are absolutely right. It would work. I've done a lot of experiments with EMF and EMR with tinfoil and thin aluminum. Aluminum is the best. It's the best I've found. It'd be interesting to get a hat and see how this blocks EMR. So, but if you're going to do this with a group, everybody's going to have to be wearing it. Like usually a lot of people just have like one partner. Well, you're both going to need it. So, but a lot of people talk about like bull elk coming right up to them, or deer or turkeys or whatever, just like right up to them. Like there's even a video online. Excuse me.
That's so cool.
Where a bobcat walks right up to the guy and just damn near starts crawling on the guy. All right, so I give you two videos. Let's play at least one of them. Let's do the 1H, which is a general product info. I don't think there's any music in there.
Brand new to the Hex lineup is our outerwear pants. These will be the most comfortable hunting pants you will ever wear. And of course, they have the Hex patented technology woven right in. They feature a super comfortable action cut, quiet fabric, ample pocket space, and a zippered leg pocket for your Hex accessories or your cell phone. This is a high quality pant that replaces the need for an additional Hex layer in order to get the full Hex advantage. They come in both Hex Style Anywhere and Hex Style Green Camo, as well as an olive brown. Paired with any Hex top and head cover, you will have complete Hex coverage for your next hunt. This will be our best-selling product for 2022, so act quickly while supplies last.
All right. And then let's play a little bit of video 2H. We don't have to watch the whole thing. You can maybe even fast forward a little tiny bit. Oh, yeah, I think this is cool because he actually tests the electrical current on a machine. Yeah, go ahead and play it.
And at those shows, you see a lot of things. You can touch the fabric, see what the product looks like.
He demos
but you'll
on a
also
tree
be able
joust.
to see the EMR meter. And that's what I want to show you today. For those of you who have not had the opportunity to go by and see us in person, this is a demonstration that you're going to see. So what we bring is our EMR meter. This meter actually picks up the frequency that's coming off our body. Through heart rate and muscle movement, we're putting out an electrical energy that animals can pick up on. Birds can actually see it, and that's why it's such a big advantage this season during turkey hunting time. As you can see, when I put my hand over the meter, you can see all these spikes. When I move, it actually gets real erratic. That's because the energy in my hand is actually spiking, causing the muscles to move in my body. The important thing to remember is all of this is actually visible to a bird. Remember, birds see electric fields visually. If a movement has this, that bird knows that he's looking at a living object and he knows he needs to react. Our regular hunting clothing, there's just cotton fabric, does absolutely nothing to block that. While it might give you a visual camo, it's not blocking that electrical field. So you can be camoed head to toe, move a little bit, even on a windy day when there's all kinds of movement.
Interesting.
You move a little bit, and that bird's going to peg you. That's because,
And then he
remember,
puts the
this
clothing
is visible
stretched.
to birds. All Hex fabrics have an electrically conductive carbon yarn grid woven right in. It's all interlocking. So what we see now my electrical energy is being captured by that grid. In the suit, it's held in capacitance and it grounds out every time you touch ground. But as you can see, it's almost completely blocked the electrical energy that's coming out of my body. So remember, this is visible to a bird. This is an inanimate movement. Both of them are movements, but the bird sees this. He can tell that that's a living being. That's why birds see your movement so very well.
This particular video
When you take that away using hex technology, your movement is more like an inanimate movement, and it's going to be ignored by those birds.
That's enough.
That's so cool.
That's enough of that crap.
Well, yeah, birds can see you with this stuff.
Yeah, and if you are interested, you just go to heckshunting.com and you can check it out. Somebody wrote that it was Father's Day coming up for Alex. Yeah,
Thanks.
some fun comments. There was some. Yeah, that was Hilton. Alex, Father's Day's coming up. 200 and 250. Hook the old man up. I love it.
Yeah. Get right on that.
And it is kind of, once again, this stuff's the butt of jokes, and that's cool. I totally get it. I've never bought it, but do I think wouldn't it be cool if some researchers got it and was like, oh, they had the longest sighting in history, and they got footage, and they, who knows? We don't know. You don't know until you try. All right. That's enough of Tech Breakdown. I think it was a good one, wasn't it?
I liked it.
You liked it?
I thought it was cool. I've never seen a suit like that.
By the way, I guess this clothing is very, very comfy.
Oh, yeah?
Lightweight and comfy. So there you go. But do not wear it on a lightning storm.
Oh, no.
I'm joking, but then I'm like not joking. Right? What time is it? I mean, is John in the back room yet?
Yeah.
Let's get.
With one thing.
Why don't we did plenty of clips. I'll save these clips for next week.
Perfect.
And then I won't have to do them. That'll save me time. And let's get to John on, and I'm going to introduce him here. So John was born and raised in Grays Harbor. By the way, Grays Harbor is where the Hereford tracks. But probably the best Bigfoot tracks ever found, ever in history, by a sheriff. And he was also a man tracker, and he cast these tracks, and he documented every detail on these tracks. And he knew they were real. And that happened in Grays Harbor. Well, that's where John is from. So he lives on the Olympic Peninsula, which is a rainforest. And he said from a young age, his main interests were anything in the outdoors, hiking, fishing, hunting, exploring the old logging camps and mines. And he had apparently some unexplained things happen to him in the woods. Unlike Alex, who's had nothing unexplained ever happen to him anywhere. So he developed an interest in Bigfoot, probably looking for answers, unlike Alex. Not knowing, sorry, Alex, not knowing there were other researchers on the subject. And that's kind of where I was at too when I found my footprints up in the Arctic. I didn't know that this was a thing, I didn't know there were people out there that were doing research, right?
Right.
So anyhow, then he joined the BFRO. He worked, and he also worked with people from the Olympic Project over the course of many years. He now works solo on the Bigfoot mystery, and he became interested also in fungus. He spent so much time in the woods, and I think he kept seeing beautiful fungus and different types. And he's a photographer, so he started doing a lot of beautiful fungus photography. And fungus is another thing in the forest we know very little about. We've just touched the surface. The fungus is like the internet of the forest, right?
Right.
Yep. And it also is so important for medicinal things and whatnot. So anyhow, with that, let's give John a big, huge warm welcome. So this isn't the last podcast he ever does.
Hey, John.
Hey, Alex. Hey, Doug.
Hi, John. It's good to see you.
Always good to see you, Doug.
It's been
a long time since we've seen each other in person.
Yeah, it has. I was going to ask you, do you ever bump into Clay Butler, who's one of the nicest, coolest people I've ever met?
I haven't seen Clay in quite a while. He is still around. He basically retired.
Yep.
Was continuing to do his fishing guide service, but he'd retired from the Forest Service and the federal law enforcement.
Yeah. But Clay always was really interested in the Bigfoot mystery.
Yeah, Clay was another one of the best man trackers in the country for the federal government. And when you mentioned the Hereford cast, that really intrigued him because he had worked with Dennis Hereford and was really impressed because, as he claimed, that Hereford was just as good a tracker as he was. So nobody was going to fool him in his eyes.
And for those that have not seen the Hereford tracks, I actually have one. I was going to set it here on my desk, but maybe in a little bit I'll go grab it and we can talk about that a little bit. Because I know you really know a lot of the history of the Olympic Peninsula. Can you tell the story of how that trackway was found?
I can give it a shot.
All right.
Yeah. Basically, Deputy Hereford, he had an interest in the subject, and the sheriff at the time, a guy named Dennis, also had a kind of a passing interest. So there were a handful of deputies that were interested, and the county got so many calls every year for Sasquatch or reported tracks or sightings that he figured there's something to it. So if a call came in, he would allow these deputies to go investigate if they weren't busy doing something else. But on this particular day, I believe it was Dennis Hereford's day off, and a forest worker had found these tracks, and he went to Dennis's house knowing that he was interested, and they went back to the site where Dennis actually tracked whatever left these prints for actually quite a ways, and then through some regrowth trees and out onto this other logging road. Well, there was some active logging going on at the time, and it had been fairly dry for a while, and the roads were covered with a kind of a thick layer of very fine dust.
Yeah. Volcanic dust, as I remember.
It had rained. Yeah. It's just river run dust, very fine, like river silt. And it had rained, so it was this perfect tracking medium. And so he followed the tracks for quite a ways, and he determined, it was kind of interesting, he determined that the animal was sneaking, or what he thought was sneaking, because the steps were pretty short. They were about 24, 26 inches apart. And they went up the road until they got onto a logging landing. And on that landing, you could look down and see the logging equipment, that was actively happening. And the creature turned around and then ran back down the road, off the road. And when it started running, the distance between steps went from like 24 inches or so up to 9 feet 6 inches. And
Whoa. So it was
then it went to a ball on its foot. Yeah.
It was leaping or running with that kind of a stride.
Yes, and it went just to the ball of the foot, the front of the foot, not the whole foot when it ran. And so then he cast quite a few of the tracks, documented it, did a pretty good write-up on it for the sheriff's department. They took a lot of measurements, I think 24 different photos, cast quite a few tracks. Some other people came in and cast some tracks. And he tracked, I believe that time, I think he tracked the animal for about a quarter mile. Dennis Hereford also tracked on several other occasions for well over a half mile to several miles following track lines.
Wow.
Did I lose you guys?
No, continue. We put you in the hot seat.
Oh, no problem. I just, and that's the basic of those tracks. And they're, like I say, they're some of the best tracks not only because they were so well documented by a law enforcement professional who, really was looking at it like a crime scene, and that the tracking medium was so perfect, that it was such fine dust that had just been moistened to the perfect level that it just took beautiful impressions.
I have the police report right here in my hands.
Yeah, I have a copy of that also.
Yeah, it's so cool. I'm just going to show one. I mean, he describes every footprint.
Oh,
in
yes.
great detail. I mean, measurements. And here, let me show. I can get to this one picture. I'll show the track.
And by the way, Doug, the hex suits, I believe, do work. I have.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting. So you probably, well, it's something. I mean, what does somebody have to lose? If you need clothing, you need long underwear, you need a coat anyhow. You're already coats and stuff, good quality stuff ain't cheap, right?
Oh, yeah. I know. And the stuff I have is actually rather lightweight. So you can put it on either under or over other clothing. But I've tested a little bit, and I really believe it works well with birds, like the creator there was talking about. And I think it works on other animals also. But I've been in a situation where I was sneaking up on a cougar kill, and there were turkey vultures were hovering around, and I literally, they're pretty spooky when people get around.
Oh, big time! I've never gotten close to a vulture.
And I literally walked. They were up in trees, and I literally walked right up underneath them, wearing the hex chute, right in the open, actually walking right down a small stream.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and
that's interesting.
They didn't even seem to pay attention to me.
Well, that's interesting. We can talk even more about that. But here's an example of the Hereford track sketches. I mean, this guy went to great length to document not just the length of the print, distance between toes, the distance on the ball of the foot, the distance of calluses or any irregularities on the foot. He was absolutely, and I interviewed him a couple of times. And man, I'll tell you, when you meet him, it's like, okay, just based on his work alone, I would have to say they exist. Don't you agree with that?
Oh, I totally agree. And I speak with Dennis every once in a while. And to this day, that's one of the things he'll always tell me. Says, I'll listen to anybody about this stuff, but if they try to convince me that these things don't exist, he says, I don't want to talk to them.
That's so cool.
He's tracked them enough and seen enough that he has no doubt.
By the way, David Ellis and Shane Corson are watching live, John.
Awesome.
And Shane and obviously David are in the Olympic project. Shane is absolutely amazing. I'm sure you just love the heck out of Shane.
Oh yeah, Shane's a brother from another mother.
Yeah. I can only imagine that.
Both him and David.
Yeah, they're both amazing. Let me show this track just real quick. But this thing weighs a ton. It's huge and it's hydrocal. Now that is a detailed track.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, you can literally see toenail detail. So, because of that fine mud, I don't want to drop that thing on my foot. Yeah, if you ever want to show a track to anybody, show them the Hereford track. It's absolutely impressive.
It's the one that almost every photograph of Dr. Meldrum, when he's holding up a track, 99% of the time, it's one of the Hereford tracks.
Yeah, and they're rare. I mean, how often, John, have you found a trackway under such ideal conditions? Have you ever?
I've never found any under those kind of conditions. The only thing that would be close to that, and it's still questionable whether they were humans or whether they were something else, was about 20-some years ago with Rick Knoll, and it was a place called Rattlesnake Lake. And there were a bunch of tracks, and it was in a very fine silt medium, much like the Hereford casts. And they were good enough tracks that you had dermal features just beautiful detail. And that's the only time I've ever found tracks that were that quality, or ever been around any tracks that were that quality. The other ones, generally the medium just isn't there for that kind of quality.
Yeah.
It's
And Rick is a very respected, extremely humble. Obviously, he's kind of quiet lately, but he's amazing. He's the one that got the Skook and Body cast. Him and Derek Randalls.
And Leroy Fish.
And Dr. Leroy Fish. Yep. Yeah, there were a number of people there, but at least I think Rick was the tent pole guy who had the idea to.
Well, he was the casting expert.
Yeah.
In his work at that time, the reproducing tooling and stuff for aircraft, casting things was one of the things that he was involved with. And in the aircraft industry, everything's got to be perfect. You can't. If it's off, it's off. So he was the guy who had the expertise to cast such a large impression in hydrocal and make it work.
Well, okay, so let's talk about the Olympic Peninsula. That, to me, has to be the most mild, the most lush, the most rain. I mean, Bigfoots are kind of known. They need rain. They need water. They call them water apes. They need X amount of inches of rain a year. But the Olympic Peninsula is also, the weather is somewhat mild because of the ocean, the ocean currents. So go ahead and just explain why this is such amazing Bigfoot habitat.
Well, it's a temperate rainforest, most of the peninsula, and it has on the eastern side it's a little drier. On the western side, it's more wet because it gets the offshore flow from the Pacific Ocean, which also keeps the temperature throughout the year more moderate. Instead of getting as cold or as too hot, you always have that influence off the ocean. And it's basically a mountain range of the Olympic Mountains, and then smaller mountains surrounded by water. Pacific Ocean to the west, Straits of Juan de Fuca to the north, and Puget Sound to the east. So it's been nicknamed the Island of Rivers because it's basically this peninsula that's river drainage after river drainage after river drainage.
Wow.
And a lot of rainfall. The highest rainfall in the lower 48 states, continuous 48 states.
I remember seeing a photo. I had a book when I was a kid that was on national parks. And I remember seeing the Olympic Peninsula photos when I was a child. And I would stare at that photo throughout until I was like in my 20s because I wanted to go there so bad someday.
Probably something from like the Hoh Rainforest or something like that. Those are very popular photos. They call it the Hall of Mosses.
Yeah, there's tons of moss and the moss hanging off the trees, and
everything here is green.
Yeah,
you don't have a lot of open country unless it is from commercial logging or a fire.
Okay, but let's talk about the abundance of animals, fruit, edible plants, edible mushrooms. Can you kind of give us a laundry list of why the Olympic Peninsula is such a great environment?
Well, like I said, because of that temperate zone and the amount of water, you have a good long growing season for a lot of vegetation, and we have a lot of vegetation. It's very thick, and it's a multitude of different types of species, mainly coniferous trees, but we have some deciduous. We have a lot of fruiting plants, blueberries, blackberries, huckleberries, salmonberries. List goes on. You have a lot of the vegetation is edible for browsing or other types of animals, but it's just because of that, the amount of rain we get and the amount of warmer weather, but not too warm. It keeps everything in that like a greenhouse state almost for things to grow. We can just grow it and grow it and grow it, and it'll overtake anything open within years. Anything like an opening it gets grown over.
Well, then there's the ocean food resources. So talk about that. Oh my God.
Oh yeah. The ocean, as like the natives would tell you, the old thing, when the tide is out, the table is set, because as the tide goes out, you've got numerous different species of clams, cockles, razor clams, mud clams, horse clams. You've got a lot of seafood and tidal areas that are full of sea anemones, small fish, crabs, clams, oysters, just a multitude of things that you can eat and are very nutritious and can just be basically picked up off the ground when the tide's out in a lot of places.
Have you done research along the coast? I mean, just hoping that catching maybe a Bigfoot?
A little bit. There are numerous different stories, especially on the Quinault Reservation and the farther northern coast, a little bit of the peninsula. There's a lot of stories of a Sasquatch coming down to get clams, especially at night at lower tides. And it's the Quinault's, it's kind of a matter of fact thing. There are certain areas of the beach where they'll, just, okay, we don't dig clams there because, that's the Sasquatch or the Tsiatko's clams. That's their clams. So there's a lot of story of that. I have done a little bit of stuff on the beach at night, but the southern part of the beach, which is more accessible for me, you have to be a tribal member to be on the reservations. And some of the northern coast is a little harder to get to. I've done a little stuff at night out there, but for the most part, I've stuck to the mountains and the river valleys.
I was lucky enough to get on the Quinault Indian Reservation and see. I've never seen anything like the beaches that they have.
They have some beautiful.
It goes on forever, and it's just there's nothing built. It's just forest meets ocean.
Yes, and if you from there north around to the Straits, it's just beautiful rocky shorelines with lots of tide pools and little coves and rocks that are just covered with sea life, anemones and starfish and clams and cockles and mussels, and beautiful. And then a little farther north, then you start getting into the kelp beds, which
is edible.
Which is kind of a superfood, actually.
By the way, I'm going to interrupt you. Have anybody ever described Bigfoot eating kelp?
I personally have not received a report, but I believe I remember an anthropologist named Gordon Strasberg, I believe, who talked about some reports of them eating kelp.
Wow.
Years ago. He was very much into classing them as almost a marine mammal, so that they were so tied to the water and the ocean.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I always envision if they ever do taxonomy on a Bigfoot, that they're almost going to give it some kind of a marine, there's going to be a hyphenated piece of Latin in there that's going to have something to do with water.
I really believe, a lot of some of the, and you on some of your shows went there in the inside passage, between Alaska and Washington and Canada. There are some of those, vast areas of inlets and islands and shoreline that I can't think of a better habitat, because there are a very low number of people and just the richness of food source that is just right there for the taking anytime the tide goes out. I can't think of a better place for, to possibly get footage of a Sasquatch.
I actually believe Alex could survive there. Just give him a tent and a sleeping bag and put him somewhere on the beach near the Quinault beaches. I think you'd be living it up. There's so much food, Alex. It's insane.
Yeah, there is a lot of food up there.
And then we didn't mention the salmon.
And and that's where then you start looking into the rivers and the creeks that come in, where the salmon runs are and the fish runs are, and that's a whole other ecosystem that's just very rich. And makes for, like I say, a perfect habitat, especially being that the vegetation is so thick. It's not like, oh, look, there's something in the field. There's no field to be there. It's very thick. And I think you remember from being here that it's along the streams and along the rivers, it can get just almost impenetrable. You can't, it's very difficult to move through.
I was going to give people an idea of you. So we worked all day. We're all worn out. Everybody's in bed. And I got, John, do you want to go out and
yes,
use a thermal camera and drive around and do this and explore? He's like, heck yeah. He goes, we could sleep when we're dead. And so we stayed up all night.
Yeah, I think we got back just a little after 4 a.m.
Oh, okay. But I just
2
remember.
nights in a row.
Oh yeah, we did it more than once.
Oh yes, that was a lot of fun.
But we had thermal cameras were back in those days were not something you could get your hands on. I had a $55,000 Micron.
That was my first real introduction to a thermal camera.
Yeah,
and that was mind blowing. That was mind blowing to be able to see the things that we could see at night.
Yeah, there was one time I think we you go ahead and tell that story.
Well, we had been driving this quite a bit, and I was hanging out the side of the vehicle with the thermal imager, and you were driving, and it was hooked up to a camcorder, so you had a screen that you could watch also. And we'd been seeing elk and deer, and we saw a bobcat that ran down the road. And at this one larger open area, which had been at one time been a homestead field, there was a nice thermal image across this field just standing there. And from the looks of it, you could see like the head, shoulders, and it was just standing there.
Mm-hmm.
And we're both like,
is that
what we think it is? And we kept looking and looking. Yeah, it was like it, and it was just that perfect shape of head and shoulders and the body standing there. And it actually turned out, it turned out to be an elk that was standing face on to us, and it had its head dropped a little bit.
And
finally it moved.
But had we have been dishonest, we could have passed that off as a Bigfoot thermal.
Oh, very easily, because
yeah,
I mean, it had us going for a while. It really did, because it looked like this is what we're looking for. I mean, yeah, it was pretty cool. That was a lot of fun playing.
Yeah, I remember the adrenaline got a little pumped up for a little bit there.
Yeah, I think we probably were up there on a pretty high level. We thought we had it right there.
By the way, anybody have any questions for John? Just throw them in caps so we notice them. And any members have questions, we'll definitely give you priority. Okay, so let's get into you now more in your research. And I guess the best way to maybe start out is just tell us a story of some interesting encounter that you had maybe in the early days. It's like, there might be something to this Bigfoot mystery.
Well, what kind of got me involved, what started, was I spent most of my life has been playing out in the woods. I mean, that's when other families went to Disneyland for vacation, we went camping. So anything out in the woods was always what we did. And so from a young age, I was running around the woods, and at about the age of 15, me and a friend had hiked to some lakes, and nothing really happened per se, but we got really kind of spooked. And so we left. And that always was in the back of my mind. I always kind of wondered why we got so scared, because it didn't really make any sense. We didn't see anything. We didn't hear anything.
Yeah.
So years later, I go back to the same lakes, and it was kind of planned. A friend of mine and I were going to go to these lakes to go fishing and spend the night. And because it's kind of a tough hike to get to. We had planned it out ahead of time. And he was an avid bow hunter and outdoorsman. So, but I kept jokingly telling him, hey, you got to watch out though. This is where Harry lives. This is where Sasquatch lives. And he'd laugh at me. He joked because in reality, I had been always told that there was no such thing as a Sasquatch. My dad had told me there's no such thing. Other outdoorsmen that I knew, no such thing. So I mean, it was in the back of my head, but at the same time, I really didn't believe in such a thing. So I was joking with him, oh, you'll see, this is where Sasquatch lived. So it come that time, and we hiked up to these lakes. And we get there and drop our packs. He starts around the lake fishing one way, and I'm starting around the other, and there's this really large, loud thump. And we're in a big kind of basin, this loud thump. And he looks at me and I look at him and I said, wow, I told you so. And so we laugh, we're thinking elk, tree limb come down, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, this happened a couple times during the day, and it finally got to nighttime, and we had a little fire going there and had our dinner and everything. We laid down to go to sleep, and all of a sudden there's just like this commotion. And it was the only thing I could really compare it to is like a bluff charge for a bear, where they'll kind of throw a fit and crash through stuff and then they stop. Had this crashing for, I don't know, probably 3-5 seconds, and then it just stops. And we're both, looking, we don't see anything. It's just almost completely dark at this time. No, a moonless night. We're in old growth timber, so it's really dark. And he looks at me and it's like, what the heck was that? And it's like, I don't know. It's like, well, maybe we better get the fire going again. So we kind of restoked the fire a little, and it was a real small fire because we didn't have a lot of wood. And we didn't have any flashlights with us or anything else because it's kind of a rough hike. So all we really had was a sleeping bag, a little bit of food, and our fishing poles. So we get the fire going a little bit. It's probably, 35, 40 minutes, and we don't hear anything, and it gets quiet. So we're kind of laying back down. We're just sleeping out on the ground in our sleep bags. And all of a sudden, another big commotion, same kind of thing. And, it roused us right up. And long story short, this kept going like this for the rest of the night. Except what really got me is while it was happening a few times, it would sound like a big limb being broke or things like that during it. And so, but in my mind, I don't know what's going on. We're both pretty scared, actually. And I'm thinking of a bluff charge from a bear. But it's really thick huckleberry brush, and the underbrush is all huckleberry. And at least 2 times, you could hear what sounded like a rock being thrown through the brush. You could hear it. If you throw a rock through thick brush, you can hear it as it hits the brush and the thump hits the ground. And that really threw me for a loop because bears don't throw rocks. And
yeah, they do.
Yeah,
I'm joking.
So anyway, this, like I say, it kept going all night, off and on, about every half hour or so. And when it got light, we packed our stuff and we got the heck out of there. And it was kind of funny because we never talked about that.
That's weird.
And it, for lack of better words, it haunted me. It bothered me because I could not answer what that was. I could not even comprehend, and it was long before any commercial night vision was available or anything like that. And it was just dark. We couldn't see anything. And so it bothered me to the point where after a few years, I decided I've got to try to figure this out. I've got to try to understand what this was. And the only thing that kept coming back is a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot. But I didn't really necessarily believe in that. But what else could it be? I mean, I knew there were no other people up there. I couldn't imagine what could have thrown rocks or what could be moving around in those dark woods and not making any noise when it was moving around, except when it would make these commotions. So I was like, I got to find out what this is. And that's when I made a conscious decision to try to research. And what I found out is I started going out in the woods, looking for things, trying to find everything, to read everything I could. And what I found is I really wasn't finding that much. But
yeah. I remember those days.
Well, and it's like, there was a few things, and I'd seen some of the movies, and some of the semi-documentaries that had been out. And the only person I knew ever seen anything was like Peter Byrne and like Robert Morgan.
Yeah.
I'd seen on some old
In Search of or something.
Yeah, and that kind of stuff. And then I was kind of a latecomer to the internet. And when I first got on the internet, I do believe the first thing I ever did on a search engine was Bigfoot. And it was like,
are you sure that was it? Bigfoot?
I'm pretty sure that was probably the first thing I did. And I was like totally blown away at how many other people were interested in this and how many other stories there were that were really similar.
It's just funny you mentioned that.
And it
John.
was just like, wow, okay, maybe I'm not crazy.
It's funny you mentioned that because I know mine was Bigfoot in Minnesota, my first search term. And when the internet was available. So yeah, I remember those days.
Yeah.
It was exciting. So okay.
It was kind of funny. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna do it. We have a little bit of a delay, but so what was your next move then? Okay, so did you find anything worthwhile? And
well, I didn't know that I found anything that I could say was worthwhile. Just anecdotal things, maybe nothing really out of you couldn't say were people or something else. But then as time went on, actually I put in a report on the website. I found that. And I didn't hear anything about that incident, actually. And I didn't hear anything for, I don't know, it was probably 5-6 months or something. And then I get this phone call from this guy. And it caught me totally off guard. And he says, oh, yeah, well, did you put in a report in the BFRO? Oh, yeah. And it was kind of interesting because then he asked me my name again, and he says, your dad's name John also? And I'm like, yeah. And he laughed and he says, well, you probably know me. And it's like, no. And he said, well, you were kind of young. His stepfather and my dad used to hunt together. So anyway, I got in contact with a guy who had been a local researcher for many years, a guy named Fred Bradshaw. And he kind of, I don't know, for lack of better words, took me under his wing a little bit and started telling me stories and sharing reports with me and giving me information that he'd heard and introducing me to other people. And it kind of escalated then where it became more of a regular thing. Hey, we're going to go out tonight and we're going to go, look for Sasquatch. And he had like a call blasting set up and he played some different noises, sounds and different things. And it was fun. And it was very interesting. I had to meet a lot more people. And I was introduced to a group called the Washington State Sasquatch Search Group. And then I started doing some work with them, playing around. We would do some research things, and luckily, then one day, they somehow got in contact with. They were in contact with Jeff Meldrum, Dr. Meldrum, and I was doing something at home one day, and all of a sudden a SUV, a dark SUV, is pulling up my driveway, and I'm looking like I don't recognize this vehicle, and out pops one of the Sasquatch guys that I knew, and it was Dr. Jeff Meldrum and Dr. Ron Brown, which was Jeff Meldrum's partner at the time, with a group called the North American Ape Project. What Meldrum was started, they were running, and the local that I knew, he introduced him to me and said, "Hey, this guy is really knowledgeable about the area that they were in at that time. They've been out camping for a week, and so they wanted to talk to me." And we had some good conversations about the area and my interest in Sasquatch and what had happened to me, and one thing led to another. And we had some good conversations. And about a week later, I got an email from Dr. Ron Brown, really kind of casually, that was very nice to meet you, and but we need folks like you, and we chatted back and forth, and I got involved with this North American Ape Project. And things really escalated from there, because then I was unloading. They gave me some game cameras to use, and some night vision, and some camcorders. And so I really upped the game, so to speak. And also during that, because of that, I met some other local or Western Washington researchers who were also prominent. One of them was Rick Knoll and Derek Randalls, were both members of the NAP project. Excuse me. And so we started collaborating a little bit, and things just escalated from there. And eventually then Rick got me to join the BFRO, first as an investigator, and later I became a curator. And later on, because of issues in that organization, I left that organization, was kind of doing my own thing. And then knowing Derek, he got me involved with the helped working out with the Olympics project a little bit, and with bunch of great guys. And so I've collaborated with them on and off for several years now. That's kind of my basic history.
No, that's good. So we've got some questions, and we will get to every last question. So you can keep them coming. Just because we haven't got there yet, we'll get to that part. So keep the questions coming if you have something. I know what somebody had asked whether you had ever been to Jonathan Brown's place. I'm sure you've heard of Jonathan.
Oh yeah, I know the Browns. I have not been to the Browns property. I was invited to go to the Browns property at one point, but yeah, no, I have not been there. I've seen a lot of their footage and some of the analysis of their footage, and some other still photos and other things that, like David Ellis was involved in some of the investigation there. And part of the reason I haven't been there is this is kind of just for me personally. I have tried, for the most part. I don't generally deal a lot with any of the Native Americans here when it comes to Sasquatch. I have many Native friends. I grew up running around with many of the local natives, but I don't know if you remember what Clay Butler, when you were doing Mysterious Encounters, one of the things he mentioned was that you do realize that some of the locals won't really be happy that you're doing this.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's somewhat been, I don't want to, it's kind of their culture here locally, especially Sasquatch, or a Tsiatko as they call it locally, is their culture. And some people take offense to investigators kind of prodding on their culture. So I've always tried to be respectful about that kind of thing.
Sure.
And because their property is on, I believe, on the Chehalis Reservation, I decided that no, I won't do that. So
I got you. That's fine. But I want to just reiterate, you have never done a podcast because you do kind of work solo. I mean, you're just John Pickering works alone.
Well, it's because I don't get along well with others.
That's BS.
But it's just I've kind of made I've made full circle.
Yeah.
What I put it, and a lot of investigators go through this a progression. Something has stirred them to be interested in the subject. Usually it was an encounter or something they couldn't answer, whatever. They got very interested in the subject like I did, and they want to find out more about it. So they get involved into it. And the progression there is like you start chasing reports. You hear a report about there was a sighting on this road in 1972. You go there. Why you go there now, and, say it's like the early 80s, you go to a place where there was a sighting in the 70s, pretty sure you're not going to find anything. But that's a report. So you investigate it. You try to find out more about it. You try to talk to anybody, whoever had the sighting. You try to find out any little bit of information you can. Very much what like an investigator on the BFRO does. They take the reports, they kind of try to contact the reporting party. They try to get every bit of information they can out of it. And if there's more to it, they try to get any physical evidence. You do that, and you do that, and you do that. You end up spending a lot of money on gas and everything else. And it's like running game cameras. Back when I started, they were still film cameras. And the batteries on a good warmer summer you might get a month out of them. So between film and batteries and the gas, you're spending money and time, and you continually do this, and what you're finding is you're not really getting much for your buck or your time. You're getting some really interesting information, but as to real evidence, it's pretty thin. It's like a good trackway or tracks. There's a lot of possible tracks, but there's very few that are really nice.
Yeah.
So you go through that progression, and you do that, you do that, and you do that. Some people never get out of that, and they like doing it, and that's fine. And I enjoy some investigation on things. But you get to a point where you realize it feels like I'm spinning my wheels. I'm not really getting anywhere.
Well, you're not enjoying the woods. You want to just be out in the forest, enjoying the forest, right? And if you have an encounter, you have an encounter. So,
yeah, partly exactly. But what I found is, and it's for me, in my opinion anyway, a lot of the Sasquatch research that we're doing and other people are doing, we're going in a circle. We're just kind of, for the vast majority, we're just doing the same things over and over again. And we may not be we're not really getting any real tangible results for the most part. We're getting the same information that we've got before. And I think we need to think out of the box, I think, to move this forward, because and also there's a lot of politics in Sasquatch research. As I'm sure you know, there's different factions that are kind of always butting heads with each other of what is a Sasquatch, how's it live, what's it eat, what's it do, and it goes on a very wide spectrum. You have people that are very much a hardcore a Dr. Meldrum type attitude. This is a great ape in North America type stance. It's a flesh and blood ape. And then on the other far end of the spectrum, you have people that it's a shape-shifting alien interdimensional being that's spying on us and there's everything in between. And
Yeah.
What you have is these people that kind of point fingers at each other and tend to, it gets like politics. And it's like, that's not what I want. I don't want politics. I've said it before. I'm just a guy that likes to go out in the woods. So if I can go out in the woods and look for Sasquatch or look for any sign of Sasquatch and just enjoy myself, for me, that's rewarding. And so I've kind of.
Well, I was gonna mention, John. We've got so much ground to cover. Can you tell us about your maybe sighting that you had?
Oh, yeah, sure.
I would love to hear that.
Okay, I had been out in a particular area, looking around and just hiking and doing whatever. And it was the fall of the year, so it gets dark fairly early. And I had my vehicle parked in place, and I had went across through a trail to a whole other network of roads they're gated off, blocked off. And I had been out in this area for a good most of the day. And it had gotten dark, and I was heading back towards my car. And to the east, I heard a call, which very much sounded like what is now called the Tahoe scream. And I had heard the Tahoe scream at that time on recordings, and it was kind of funny because I thought to myself, wow, that sounded just like the Tahoe scream. And for anybody that's never heard it, it kind of almost sounds like a sonar ping. It's a different sound.
Yeah, it's very high pitched, almost.
So yeah. So yeah. I'm sitting there. I listened for a little bit, and I don't hear anything. And I'd had some other activity in this area. So anyway, I get back out. I cross the trail, and I get over to my rig, and I get in the truck. I sat by the truck for a little while longer, just listening. Yeah, I didn't hear anything. So I get in the truck and I start to drive out. Well, I go around a sharp corner, and where the truck is kind of a logged off area. The trees are growing back, but they're only probably 3 feet tall, 3 feet tall, small replanted trees. And across this pretty good sized gully, it's a timber edge, bigger timber. And as I turning the corner, my headlights sweep across that timber line. And right there are 2 very large, upright, dark creatures that were moving east towards where that call had come from. And when my headlights hit them, when I'm on a corner, I try to stop, which I'm on gravel, so the rig slides a little bit. But in the periphery of the headlights, they are turned the other way, back the way they were coming, and boom, they just took off like a shot, running, and were gone out of the headlights. I get the truck in reverse, and I'm backing up trying to catch them with the headlights, but I never saw them again.
Wow.
And so I'm like, did I see that? Is that what I did? What did I just see? And so I quickly, I think about it. I'm looking and I can't see anything. So I drive over. The road goes kind of towards where that timberline is. And I get out and I look and I'm looking and looking, and I can't see anything. I'm shining a flashlight, but it's pretty thick, what's called slough brush, which is really thick stuff where they were. And it's like, okay, I'll come back tomorrow and look to see if I can find anything. And of course, that night it starts pouring rain. And the next day I come and I look, but it's just such thick brush and branches and everything. I can't find anything. I can't find any tracks. I can't find any hair. So it's like, well, what did I see? I saw 2 dark, upright, good, big creatures. Yeah. But I cannot say that they were Sasquatch for sure, because I just never got quite good enough a look.
Well, they weren't gray squirrels.
No, and the only thing that I've ever seen, like to say, that will give that somewhat that appearance is an elk looking straight on you because their mane is kind of dark. like kind of the silhouette that we saw, you know,
Yeah.
in the thermal idea. But when an elk runs, you know, sideways to it, it's very and the rest of the body is very light. It's very obviously an elk. So unless they bounce sideways, you know, very fast, they definitely weren't elk. And so, and the shape was right. I mean, to be a large human type shape. And they were very dark. They were black. They were what I like to call like a hole in space black.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reflection. It's just like it's a silhouette almost. And so they took off, and I was like left with like, God, I wish I saw that better. Yeah.
But you saw him in the headlights, though.
Yeah, and in the same area at another time, I had actually been deer hunting. And all during deer season, I kept seeing this really large elk. And I kept thinking, wow, I'd be a dandy elk to get. And so I thought, okay, I normally didn't buy an elk tag, didn't elk hunt or hunt elk because I hunt by myself and I can get a deer out by myself, but an elk is a lot more work. So anyway, I decided, okay, I'd get an elk tag. And it was opening day of elk season, but I had to work that morning. So I went out late that afternoon towards evening, and sure enough, somebody else had shot the elk. But while I was looking around the area, I get over into some timber, and I got like 3 very distinct wood knocks. And I'm like, okay. So I just stood there for a little bit. I told myself, you're not moving for 5 minutes. You're just going to listen. So I sat there and listened. And I literally looked at my watch. And when you're just sitting there like that, 5 minutes seems like forever. But I listened and listened, nothing. So then I picked up a couple rocks and I clanked the rocks together 3 times and nothing. And I told myself, okay, you're waiting 5 more minutes. And it's getting dark. And I'm standing there on this road and nothing happens. So I leave. But I come back to the same area and with another individual. And we had been looking around and we're actually crossing the same logged off that I was looking across when I saw these 2 figures. We're walking along on little finger ridges. I'm on one ridge and he's on the next ridge over. And we're just looking to see what we can see, if we can see anything. And something roars at us. That's the only way I can describe it, is like a roar.
Can you imitate it?
Out of gee, you made me do that during Monster Quest too.
Yeah, can you?
It's just a roar, and it lasted for about 5 seconds.
Whoa! So it's not a gray squirrel.
Stop. No, and the thing was, the timber that it came out of was about between 500 and 800 yards away from us.
Wow.
And it was so powerful and so loud. To me, you would have had to have a rock concert type sound system to put out that much volume and power.
Wow.
And my friend looked at me and I looked at him and he's like, what in the bleep was that? And I just kind of shook my head. And we get back to the rig and it's like, I don't know, we're shaking our heads. And, I mean, I'm pretty sure I think I know what it is. But so anyway, that was like my last day off. And my next days off, I went back and I started looking through that timber. And behind that timber, there was an old logging grade that was all grown over pretty good. And I find 2 pretty good tracks in kind of a rocky clay soil. but they were full of water because it had rained. And I thought, oh boy. So I took a picture. I took pictures of them. I went back with the intent to cast them, and with a turkey baster, and I sucked the water out, but it had just silted in so bad. There was no real detail to it, so I didn't bother to cast it. But it's like the area, I would get repeated things happening like this. So it adds, for me, it adds to the validity of what I saw. Very well could have been a Sasquatch. It wasn't just a one-off. But
well, okay, so when you hear something that loud, there's no animal that you know of in the forest that can do that.
There's no animal that I know of, and there's also where we were. There's nothing in the area. I mean, there's no houses. There's no equipment. There was nothing there. It's just timberland. So yeah, it's what do you make of that? What do you? It's
like you don't know what it is, but you kind of know what it isn't.
Correct. Yeah, it's one of those things. Well, I know what elk sound like. I know what coyotes sound like. I even know what cougars sound like, but it just doesn't fit anything else. The only thing that makes sense is Sasquatch. So if that's the only thing that makes sense, you kind of got to start to believe, hey, there's something to this. These are real. So, yeah, I don't know. It's frustrating because though I fully believe that they exist, I've seen enough things, heard enough things, and heard enough stories from people that I believe are genuine, that I have little doubt that they're real. It would be very nice to get that clear sighting type thing just to verify it for myself.
Yeah.
Because I've said before, when I started out doing this, the only person I really wanted to prove them to was my dad. Because he didn't believe in them, and here I am all interested in them and looking for them. And he was the only person I always really wanted to say, hey, look, Dad, they're real. And so when he passed away, that kind of went out the window.
That's sad.
No.
What is the best hard evidence that you've seen? Have you collected hair and tracks where you've gotten a pretty decent foot track?
I have collected some hair. I have seen a decent trackway that I cast some out of it, but unfortunately that was early on, and I made a very big mistake. I can tell you that I've made lots of mistakes, and one of the mistakes I made was I was in an area that we had done some call blasting in a couple weeks before, and a big storm came in and blew down a bunch of trees. So I wasn't able to get back into the area. I actually had to cut my way back into this area, and I find a trackway right near where we were call blasting.
Wow.
And most of it was a gravel pit. So the vast majority of them, because it was a rock, gravelly substrate, there was not a lot of detail. It's just mainly an impression. But there was one spot where it was still rocky, but there was a lot of clay in the soil, and here was a really nice track. I could see it had toes, it had the dimensions, it had everything going for it. And it had went down a little hill from there, and it had literally pulled out a bunch of salmonberry brush, because it was kind of a steep hill, like it grabbed it to keep from sliding, and it literally pulled this big clump of salmonberry brush out of the ground. And it's like, wow, this is cool. But I wasn't prepared. I didn't have any casting material. I didn't even have my camera with me. It was kind of a fluke that I decided I'd go out here, and I took a chainsaw and I cut trees out of the road and got in there. And so it's like, oh, shoot, I'm going to come back the next day. So I grabbed a couple other friends who were into Sasquatch at the time, and we go out the next day, and it was like, oh, no. Not only the elk had come through the area and walked right up the hill where this trackway was, pretty much obliterating it. But the best track, they had stepped right in front of and kind of pushed this clay and rocks into where the big toe and stuff were. And on top of that, during the night, it had froze really hard, and the frost lift had driven up all the little rocks that were in the bottom of it. It's like, I was heartbroken.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I cast it anyway. And you still, even with the cast, you've got a general shape, but it just was not there.
Yeah, it's not like what you originally
saw. I have found numerous trackways that everything tells me that they're probably Sasquatch, but never really anything that really was good details for the most part.
Yeah.
Maybe one toe, maybe a little bit, but not just not the big picture like the Hereford cast.
Can we play some of the audio that you and David collected? You guys had some kind of successful. Yeah, you guys had some kind of experience together.
That was kind of an interesting thing because I have a particular area that I've been researching for and running around in for well over 20 years that I believe is a very active area. And I have kept it very, very close, not taking anybody there, not express.
Right. Yep, and we won't give away.
Yeah, and anyway, last summer, I took David out there because David's one of the few people that I would trust with knowing the area, and it was just going to be a real easy camp out. We just camped out overnight, a couple nights, and it was very uneventful. Nothing really happened, and it's kind of what I anticipated, except David, of course, being the sound guy that he is, recorded all night, both nights. And both of us were very amazed at the sounds that he recorded that we never heard. So yeah, go ahead if you want to play some of them.
Well, the first one, Alex, I would like you to look for the deep growl. It's kind of a low growl. Let's do that one first.
Okay, I think I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah. Let's try that one first. So what was the circumstances on this one? Because a person could go, well, that was humans talking.
Yeah, that was, I would guess that was had to be fairly close to the recorder. And we were in a tent, but the actual recorder was it wasn't where we were. It was actually over on the top of my vehicle parked a ways away. Because we wanted it, away, close to the camp, but away from us. So we wouldn't just be, if I started snoring in the middle of the night, we really didn't want to pick that up. And so whatever that was, it had to be pretty close to the vehicle, in my opinion. Where the vehicle was, we were in a small gravel pit, but it's kind of wooded around it and hills around it. So because of the number of sounds that David picked up and the type of sounds they were, it really made us believe that something came in checking us out during the night, so because it had to be really close to the vehicles. We never heard anything.
Yeah, and David said the voice did not match either of yours, or his in a spectrogram, so it wasn't either of you guys.
And he got, like I say, it really surprised us at the number of sounds that he got over the evenings, and how we were like, we thought nothing happened. You know what I mean?
Well, there's another one, Alex. Let's keep them going here. One's got some barred owls, I know, in the foreground, but then in the back, I think there's some stuff that David has confirmed is not owls.
Yeah, I'll play that clip.
Yeah,
that's
amazing.
That's awesome.
And we remember we had off and on during the time there, we did have barred owls calling.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just a very pretty common anymore in on the peninsula. We have a healthy population of barred owls.
Go ahead and play that clip again, Alex, one more time.
Okay,
Sorry.
sure.
It's that ending there. Oh, you know.
Yeah, that's very unusual.
Yeah, it's very unusual. Super cool. Anybody hear one more time? God, that sounds kind of human-like, doesn't it? It's really cool. All right,
and as you know, David, like he really vets all these things.
Oh yeah.
Really looks at them and goes through them.
Yep. No, play now. Is there one more, Alex?
Yeah, there's I have got 4 clips.
Oh, we'll play them.
All right, we'll play the next one here.
Maybe David or John can. David's in chat and he can give us comments live. Bardo. Yeah, there you go again.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
This is a very active location. Let me rephrase that. I believe it's a very active as that they're there a lot.
See, that's a barred owl.
That's a very classic barred owl call.
Yep. David says play Woa Hubbub.
Oh, yes.
Woa Hubbub. Can you find that, Mr. Alex?
Yep. I think we're talking about this one.
Very cool. And is there one more, Alex?
That's all of them.
Oh, that's all of them. Okay, cool.
That one's actually, David could probably explain a lot better, but that one's kind of special because it's a particular call that he has documented in more than one location.
Yep.
And other people also have recorded it, but it's kind of a little bit off the radar. Nobody's paid a lot of attention to it, but in the spectrograph and anything, it shows that it's basically like the same call. So it's like it's almost like, okay, we heard that barred owl and we recognized that that's a barred owl. We know what it is, but this is another call, but we're getting the same call.
Do you think Bigfoots react to the barred owls going off?
I think that's very possible. I think they react to certain, other things that are going on. I also have experienced in that same location what we jokingly call the 500-pound pigeon. Alicia, my research partner and girlfriend, we frequent this one area, and we get out of the rig and start walking and hear very much what sounds like a bandtail pigeon call, but it sounds like a bandtail pigeon that weighs like 400 pounds. I mean, I can't explain it other than that. It's like ridiculously mimicked. You know what I mean? It's like something's mimicking a barred owl, but it's doing it in such a way almost to be comical. And it's like we both look at each other and just kind of laugh. And it's almost like it was done for our benefit, almost as a joke.
I heard a rooster sneeze one time.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, with a very human-like sneeze. It was kind of interesting.
A neighbor of mine has chickens and roosters, and the roosters are ones that call quite often. They're not just the mornings; they'll call all night long.
Yeah.
And there's one of them that's Alicia made the joke of that. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound like a regular rooster. It sounds like a rooster that's been smoking all its life. And she jokingly said, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with my crow. I smoked a pack every day since I was a poult." So yeah, it's kind of it's just this ridiculous sounding rooster. It sounds like it's gonna die of emphysema or something.
It seems like everybody is in agreement, and as far as researchers go, that these things can mimic.
Oh yeah, I believe that. Because over the years you get different sounds that it's like, well, that sounds like this, but that's not. This doesn't seem right, or there's other circumstances that make you think that it's not.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you get enough of those reports, and that's one of those things. No matter how strange something sounds, you get reports of something strange sounding. If you get enough of those reports, even if it sounds like something that ridiculous, maybe you should put a little bit of thought into it, because if you get so many, there's something to it. Whether it's Sasquatch or something else, there's something to it that might be worth looking into or investigating. And that's kind of a lot of what my research is kind of done on my own, is not so much the classical research of game cameras and call blasting and wood knocking, but to try to think a little maybe out of the box, maybe reverse engineer something, try to reverse engineer things, for lack of better words. It's like, say you've heard, how many reports have you ever heard that, they saw glowing eyes?
A lot.
Yeah. Okay. But, and not they're very specific. It wasn't eye shine. Their eyes were glowing. And all the biologists tell you, no, there's no such thing as glowing eyes. But at the same time, it's like, if you're getting that many reports, maybe there's something to that. Maybe it's actually worth looking into. And you were talking, when you started out, you were talking about the hex suit, and does that work or doesn't that work? And in my opinion, it works, at least on birds for sure. But for myself, I've seen it work, what I believe worked with birds. But I think there's a lot of stuff we're missing because we discount things. Well, science says that doesn't happen, so we just won't even look at it. And one of that is things in the electromagnetic, which the hex suit is covering. Partly because, it's accepted that pigeons and birds see an electromagnetic.
Widely accepted.
That's how they navigate over long distances. They can actually see the magnetic poles of the earth, the fields. And if you get into research and look into that, you actually find out they're finding out a lot of animals see to some degree into the farther into the electromagnetic spectrum, and where some creatures see UV or other things that we're not really seeing, also bees and insects and birds. So if you really get into it, they've determined that the reason the birds can see into the electromagnetic is a substance called cryptochrome that is in their eyes, and it's sensitive to the magnetic spectrum.
Right. Yep.
Well, humans have two types of cryptochrome in their eyes. One of which is super sensitive, they know, to electromagnetic. So it's not why. It's the question really more is why we're not seeing it more than because we should be. And I think part of it is that if you look at ancient cultures or older Aboriginal cultures around the world, I believe they could see it a lot better. And I think in modern times, it's become almost like white noise to us. We surround ourselves with so much electrical interference, cell phones, computers, our electrical grid, that those things have become kind of white noise to us. Our brain just doesn't process it so much anymore, where the ancient peoples did see it. And a good evidence maybe for that are things like Stonehenge and like megalithic sites around the ancient world and everything, like the blue stones that Stonehenge were built up, which they hauled like 50 or 100 miles away from Wales to that site, have a lot of quartz in them and put out a lot of electromagnetic signatures. So they picked those stones for a reason. Why? The possibility that they could see that had a lot of energy in it. Quartz puts out a lot of electromagnetic energy. It's accepted. So I think instead of just poo-pooing ideas like that, we really need to not necessarily say, hey, that's the answer. These things see electromagnetically and that's how they can do things. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying don't discount it.
Right. Yeah. Basically things in the people put in the woo category may be a super ability.
Yeah. And maybe not necessarily that super of ability if you really think about it. Because like I say, if a pigeon can see an electromagnetic, and they're finding other animals can see an electromagnetic, and humans have the capacity to see an electromagnetic, have the substance,
at one time had,
let alone, I mean, think about it. I know you've talked to people, Doug, like people that say, oh, that they can see people's auras, they claim things like that. Well, is that what they're seeing? The electromagnetic spectrum of people? Yeah. It would make sense. And I've had that kind of proven to me over time by some people. So it's like, I don't poo-poo it at all. And I think we might be missing some important possibilities to looking outside the box if we're more open to these things.
Well, have you heard or studied up on all the animals they keep discovering? One, that glow under UV light, and two, can see in UV like caribou.
Yeah.
And they're now saying, oh, bears can probably see in UV, and this animal can. A lot of
creatures can. Yeah. And if you get into the theories behind it, like your thermal imagers, if you read into a lot of the theory and stuff behind what, the thermal imagery, and if you look at light, what we see, you realize we are only seeing a very narrow spectrum of light in the spectrum. So there's a lot of stuff going on that we can't see. Our eyes just don't pick it up, but it's there anyway. Wavelengths of light that are there. They know they're there, but we just can't see them. That's not to say other things can't see them. We know that, like I say, a lot of birds, a lot of insects can see in UV and other things where they see stuff that we don't see. Like even a bee looking at a flower, they'll see patterns and markings on that flower that we don't see. And that helps direct them to the pollen or whatever the reason behind it. I just think that there's a good chance that we might be missing some good possibilities for research or for finding more evidence if we don't shut ourselves off from the possibilities.
No, it's so true. Have you ever used a UV flashlight to look for fungus?
Yeah. Yeah, I have. I need to get a new one because the one I
Is
had.
it possible there, like I say, Bigfoots have UV vision,
I
which basically is the lack of a filter. It isn't like some.
Right.
It's more of a primitive eye, actually.
And that could explain a lot why they tend to be more nocturnal.
Yeah, but would certain edible funguses glow to them?
Oh, you bet. I'm sure it would. And other plants, fungus, a lot of things would possibly show up completely different under UV. It's known that like snakes, a lot of snakes, they can see thermally, can track mice and stuff by their urine. They can actually see the urine UV light of the urine to be able to track mice.
Which is why UV flashlights are so cheap now, because people use them for, to see where their pets have been peeing.
Right, peeing, Pet, or But
what a great tool if you were looking for things to eat,
it's
toads, mice, blah, blah, blah.
Like I'm saying, to me, I look at it, okay, here's like say a snake or something like that, or bees. We're talking about things that are millions and millions of years older in evolution than a hominid or primate, have capabilities that we would consider paranormal if a human said they could do it. But it's much older than us. So there's nothing that says that other animals, higher forms of life, can't do these things.
Yeah.
So I don't.
Well, I've been suspecting that Bigfoots can see in UV spectrum.
Oh, I believe that if I was to guess, and like I say, it's conjecture. I'm not trying to prove or disprove any of it, but I believe they probably can see in UV, and I suspect personally that they can see farther into an electromagnetic spectrum, more
like infrared type.
Well,
beyond infrared.
Beyond infrared, I'm talking about actually electrical, like the magnetic pole of the Earth type spectrum.
Gotcha. I wonder what that would look like, John. Well, describe to us what they would see.
You did you see the aurora borealis here the week or so ago?
Yes,
when it was
sir.
So strong.
Yes, sir.
I took some photos of it. It was amazing. Well, there you go. That is electromagnetic energy from the sun that's causing that, hitting certain gases and causing a plasma to glow. There you go. I suspect some of it would look like that. And it's known all things give off a certain amount of electromagnetic. I mean, it's just part of the makeup of everything. Everything has its own electromagnetic signature. That's just a known thing. So if you can see some of that, what I suspect, what a person might see is kind of like an aura or a glowing of certain things. Some things way more than others. Some depending on the strength and the frequencies. Some things would be, very bright, and other things just very faint. Some things that glow may extend off of it for feet or inches. Other things that may barely show. I don't know because I can't really see it. So.
Well, you had one really weird experience, and obviously you don't know what it was, but you just have a kind of a strange experience, and I thought you could relay it under the pretenses that. You don't know what the hell happened. Yeah, you don't know anything.
But
it's still a weird experience.
I have to give a little. Yeah. And part of this really goes off of that my girlfriend does see into the electromagnetic spectrum, and she's proven it to me. I mean, she can see like people's aura type things and energy off things. And so a lot of it really hinges around her being there at the time. And we were in the particular area where David recorded the sounds. And we went out just for a day trip just to get out in the woods and look around. And it's just a short spur road that's a couple miles long, or about a mile long. If you walk it round trip, it's a couple miles, and it's just it's a thing we like to walk on. Well, we had went out this road, and we went off on a little bit of a side spur off that, and we found some bones along this road. We were discussing these bones, just, okay, it was a deer, what looked like happened to it and everything. We get back out onto the road. We get to the end of the road, and we're coming back. We're heading back towards the vehicle, and there was kind of a moderate bend to the left in the road where it dropped away. This is all pretty good sized timber, bigger timber. And as we're going around this curve in the road, off in the timber, we are hearing what sounds like little bird noises of some sort. But neither of us could really identify the bird. It wasn't a sound we had heard before, and it sounded kind of odd to us, but neither of us really said anything. We're both kind of listening. And we continue to walk, and we get past that spot a little farther where behind us the road would drop away in the timber. And we started getting what we both determined was some wood knocking. We both listened to it, and we both kind of agreed that doesn't sound like a woodpecker or anything, a flicker or anything like that. It sounds like what people class as wood knocking. So we're listening for a bit and just standing there, and all of a sudden it started at the top of my head, and it slowly worked its way down my body all the way to the ground. For lack of better words, like a strong, like tingling, weird feeling, almost like I pinched the sciatic nerve, and not the pain, but where a leg kind of goes numb, but it's not numb, and it's kind of tingling. It's the only thing I can kind of relate it to. But it started at the top of my head, and it's working its way down. And I have some medical background, and I'm instantly trying to think, what's wrong with me? Am I having a stroke? Am I having a cardiac event? Something's wrong? And Alicia's standing next to me, and I voiced to her, something's going on. And she says, "Oh, I know." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And I said, "There's something going on. I'm tingling or weird." And she goes, "Oh, I know." And I'm confused. Like, I'm still trying to think, what's going on with me? I think there's something wrong. And I get this overwhelming feeling, sit down. And I'm struggling with this in my head. Yeah, sit down before you fall down. But for whatever reason, I did not, I felt like I should sit down, but I did not want to sit down because I was afraid I wouldn't be able to get back up.
Okay.
And I'm like, something's happening. And she says again, yeah. She goes, "You're getting zapped." And I'm like, what? And I mean, I'd heard people talk about being zapped, and they've talked about infrasound, and they've talked about other different things, and I've heard different stories. But at this moment, I'm still thinking something's wrong with me. And so she says to me, and I had my camera hanging around my neck, and I had a backpack on, and she says, "Put away your camera. It doesn't like your camera." And I'm like, what? She says, "Put away your camera." I didn't put the camera away, but I slid it around to where it was behind me. And the level of whatever was happening to me, this tingly, weird feeling, the strength of it dropped about half. It didn't go away, but got way less severe.
Okay.
So I'm basically like, what the is happening to me? What is going on? I'm kind of in shock in some ways because I have no comprehension of what's going on.
And this is the first time you've experienced this, correct?
Yes. Never had anything like this before.
Okay.
And so I'm just standing there and this is going on. And so because of the way she's acting, and she is just sitting there smiling. And I'm like, what is going on? And she says, again, you're being zapped. And she's just smiling. It's like, how do you know? And she says, because I can see it. She claims that she could see this energy hitting me. And I'm like, wow. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. And then, so I ask her, and I just keep getting this overwhelming, sit down, sit down, sit down. But I wouldn't sit down. And I ask her, I go, are we going to have a sighting? And she says, maybe. And so I'm like, okay. And I realize that because the road goes and where it hits the timber, it drops down this hill into this gully where the wood knocking and the bird noises come from. I realized if I sat down and if something was right at that edge of that hill, it could look and see her, but I wouldn't be able to see it. So because I would have been lower than her standing. And in my head, that's what I'm thinking. This, whatever, wants me to sit down so it can show itself to her. Why I have that feeling, I don't know. That's just what I was getting, I felt at the time. So anyway, we stand there for a bit, and then she says, no, we need to leave. And all of a sudden, boom, the tingly, the whatever, it's gone. Nothing. And so we turn and we start walking back down the road, or down the road the way we were going, headed towards the car. And I am like, what in the heck just happened? Trying to make sense of this. And instantly, all of a sudden, I was hit with the same thing again. Full body. And at the exact same time, she jumps and does like a spiral pirouette type thing, which is completely unlike her. I mean, she doesn't do anything like that. And I'm like, I'm getting hit again. It's happening again. And she goes, yeah. And I said, did it happen to you too? Because the way she jumped. And she says, no. And I said, well, then why did you jump? And she says, they told me to. And I'm like, what?
Crazy.
Yeah. And so then it quits. We continue walking and it does it again, exactly the same way. I'm hit and she jumps at the exact same time. And it's like, and then it's over. We get back to the car and I'm like, what just happened? And she's just smiling. She's just loving it. And I'm like, it's like, what do I do with that? What do I do with that? What is that? What was that? Now, here's the deal, though. I realize that the human brain does weird things. And what we see, what we hear is very much our brain's interpretation of things. We are actually physically, what we see is what our brain interprets our eyes seeing. What we hear is what our brain interprets them hearing. And I know from enough psychological study and things like that, that what we think we saw or think we heard or felt may not be quite exactly right to what happened. That was just the way my brain interprets what happened. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. But it did, if I take it at face value, for me, for my experience, I have to look at it like, okay, if that really happened the way I interpret it or felt it did, we're looking at possibilities that are well beyond what I know how to deal with. We're talking about, like you say, things, okay, it's really within the realm of possibility for me that these things would see an electromagnetic or whatever. But how would that happen to me? How would they do that? Now, the other thing there is their report, of infrasound and the possibilities there of that causing effects on people. And I'm sure you've heard different variations of different stories like that. But I just don't know. I really don't know what happened to me. Hang on here a second. I gotta kill something here. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. I had a medical call, but I don't know what to make of it. I don't know quite how to deal with it. And the problem is, for me, most of the associates I have Sasquatch research are very much flesh and blood people, and they don't like anything that strays into the woo category. And unfortunately, that really strays into the woo category, and I got to admit it does. So I just don't know what to make of it.
It's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting stuff.
It was weird.
Well, don't you think people should be bringing? Why not? What's it going to hurt? Once again,
and the thing is, I've got similar stories from other people. So in my mind, it's like I say, it's like one of those things. It's okay. It sounds crazy,
sure,
and it doesn't make a lot of sense. But if enough people are saying things like this, there must be something to it. Whether it's infrasound, whether it's something electromagnetic, whether it's just a psychotic event, there's something to it. And it would be nice to know exactly why numerous people report similar things that have no connection with each other. I mean, it's a rabbit hole you could go down forever.
Well, the point is we don't know anything. Literally. Oh, by the way, I was going to mention, Renee, you were banned accidentally. Alex is trying to restore you. It was an accident. Sorry about that, Renee. That's was not meant to happen. It just somebody hit a wrong button. So anyhow, but even Renee made a comment that we don't. Okay, there's far more unseen or unknown than we know or have seen. See, right? It's like an iceberg.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I totally agree.
It's like an iceberg.
We think in our modern age that we know everything and we're really got everything figured out.
No.
But if all you have to do is pay attention to just scientific advancements that come almost daily on different things, that it's like, wow, a couple of years ago we didn't even have any comprehension that we could do this or this was going on.
Right.
And if you look, an example is just think about what we know of human evolution or our family tree, so to speak, from early fossils like Louis Leakey found, of Australopithecus and that kind of thing, on up to modern man. It wasn't that long ago that we thought we had pretty much a straight tree with a couple branches, and now it's turned into a thick bush of different ancestor relatives and different hominids and different things along the evolutionary line of what we call a human. All the cousins and different variations that we found now through fossil evidence, that it wasn't that long ago that we had no comprehension of.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of conjecture and theory and talk about what is a Sasquatch. I can't tell you because I don't know.
Yeah, Kevin Morrison asked that question. What do you think they are? And,
well, I have my own theory or hypothesis or thoughts, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know that there's anyone that knows, and if they do, they're not talking. I really believe, or tend to believe, think on the lines that in that bush of different ancestors and different branches of our lineage. I mean, we've got Neanderthals, we got Denisovans, we got Australopithecines, different hominids, Homo erectus. I think there's probably a branch that a Sasquatch is on. And I really believe that they are very close to us genetically.
Yeah, there's no doubt they're related to humans.
Yeah, and because I mean, like you say, a chimp's like 98% the same DNA, but that couple percent difference are tens of thousands of differences.
Yep.
And I know there's been a lot of some DNA study done on supposed samples that were Sasquatch. And one of the things that's came up before, and I know you're aware of this, Doug, that 99% keeps coming up. Well, and automatically the powers, the scientific community that are in the know about this kind of thing and are doing this research, automatically once they hit that, they get that 99%. They throw up their hands and they say, well, it's human contamination of the sample. But to me, they should be asking themselves, why is it 1% different? Because there are no what we consider modern humans that would have that much of a variation that I'm aware of in my research. There are no modern humans that would show up without a 1% variation in their DNA. So they should be asking themselves, well, what is this? It doesn't fit modern humans. So what is it? And I think we might be missing the boat because in my opinion, the scientific community is great and their standards have to be met, but they're very quick to discount things because it doesn't fit the known norms.
Yeah, exactly.
But
think about how long it took for viruses and even bacteria to be accepted.
Oh yeah. Well, and like I say, I look at it, and for me, I go back to what I think of Sasquatch. I think it's somewhere on one of those branches, a close relative of ours, that somewhere, whenever, way back in history, we as Homo sapiens, we directed ourselves towards tool use, towards technology, for lack of better words. And the tools are a form of technology. We focused on that as a species. We went towards the fire making, the tool making, and the technology. I think the Sasquatch, if they exist, and this is just my opinion, they went the other direction. They didn't embrace like tools and technology. They embraced the forces of nature, the natural world. They embraced what the natural world has to offer. That would be my opinion. Just a thought. So while we developed towards technology, they developed towards that natural world.
So true. So true. We've lost Alex. I'm not sure.
I'll probably put him to sleep.
No.
Hey,
Sometimes we have to take breaks, right, Alex?
Yeah. Sorry, Renee, you'll be able to come back the next stream. I got a little trigger happy.
He was waiting for me to say the wrong word. He was sitting there over the button.
Yeah, no, Renee's comments were amazing.
Yeah.
They were really good. And I think, did you think that comment where man doesn't, she wasn't talking about John. She was talking about man in general.
Of course.
She didn't say this
We're
man.
super arrogant.
Yeah. So her comments were amazing. They were some of my favorites. So yeah, sorry, Renee. You are not banned. It was just an accident. Anyhow, so what do we?
Yeah, as man or humans, we tend to disregard what we don't understand or what we don't see or understand. So it's out of our realm, so we don't believe in it.
I think the iceberg analogy is the best because
that is a very good one.
And I think that actually, not only is 99% of the iceberg underwater for us, I think it's even a greater percentage. I think that we're just seeing just this one. The man only knows 1%.
I agree because it's like when you were talking about the mushrooms and stuff earlier, and where my interest in mushrooms is really, like I say, it started out just because it's something I was seeing a lot when I was in the woods.
By the way, can you throw up a couple of John's photos, Alex?
And it's like what I've noticed. One of the things that there's such an infinite variety of different mushrooms and fungus that I was seeing, and some of them are very beautiful, or some are very elaborate. But the things that I tend to like, I see lots of things in the forest where people walk through the woods and they see the trees and they see the rivers and the streams and stuff, but they don't really take the time sometimes to really look at the small things that are just down under their feet or around them. And it's a fascinating world of microcosms of different habitats and different things that I don't think that a lot of people don't take the time to really look at or enjoy what's there. So mushrooms really kind of, to me, epitomize that. There's so much variety and actually so much little we really know about a lot of them.
Well, we know nothing about mushrooms really.
And one of the things that's, to me, is kind of interesting, the more we find out about them, it's like, well, they're not a plant, they're not an animal, they're their own thing. And the more we find out, the more just amazing it gets. I mean, like the mycorrhiza and the mycelium, it's like a worldwide web in the natural world.
Yeah. They claim trees can talk to each other from 20, 30, 40, 50 miles away to each other.
Through the mycelium. Yeah, the mycelium of fungus. And they've got proof where a tree will warn other trees of a hazard through that system. And it's like, it just opens up a whole new world of, oh my, this is so much more complex. It's almost, like Avatar, the movie Avatar.
Yeah.
How it was either Awa or the deity that the natives worshipped, but it was interconnected with everything through fibers. And it's almost like that. So many things are using that as like a network to communicate. And they've got, there's a gentleman named Paul Stamets who's talks a lot and an expert on funguses and mushrooms. And some of the things that they're finding out through testing are just amazing. You take oil contaminated soil, and they can use certain fungus, and it will literally clean it.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of medicinal things going on there. Of course, there's always the famous, psychotic type things that can happen with certain mushrooms and things. But there's
obviously many are highly poisonous.
Yeah.
Many have antibiotic healing abilities. Some apparently like turkey tail, I've heard, is cancer healing properties.
In Europe and in Asia, that's becoming, they've been doing a lot of studies with turkey tail, especially because it shows a lot of promises of cancer treatment.
Yeah. It's, I was, every time I go into the forest, I just know there's so much. I definitely feel the energy, and I definitely feel better when I get out of the woods.
Yep. I think just getting back to nature in itself is a healing thing.
Yeah.
Our environment that we put ourselves into is stressful. Day-to-day living, we stress about things. We're paying the bills. We're doing jobs. We're working. We're breathing. A lot of the time, the air and things we're breathing aren't really good, and everything else. You get out into nature, and it's a detoxifying, just stress relieving thing.
Well, they have studies now. They claim even 5 minutes in the forest, there are health benefits that last up to 4 days.
Oh yeah, I believe that totally. Because I mean, for me, I'm lucky. I actually kind of live in a very rural out.
You live in the forest. You're lucky.
Yeah, and it's like before I did that, when I lived in town, I literally, if so many days went by where I didn't get to get out in the woods, I physically could feel it. I'd get grumpier. I'd get, it would run me down. It was like my batteries were draining.
Yeah.
And get out in the woods for a day. And
have you heard the term forest bathing, John?
Yeah, I've heard the term. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a thing.
Oh yeah.
The thing is, at least the world seems to be realizing this now, though. That's what's cool. Things you've already known forever. I've known for so many years. How different I felt after I came out of the damn forest. It was like, whoa, I feel good.
Yeah, it's the ultimate feel good medicine.
Yeah. There's something you can't even put it into words. Yeah. It's and dopamine. By the way, we've had just some amazing comments from literally everybody. I couldn't even list y'all, but you guys have been just amazing in chat. We had one little tiny, some 12-year-old kid in troll. That was about it.
Who's this crazy old guy?
Yeah, it was like some 12, well, maybe 4-year-old. Anyhow, but we really appreciate. John, you will come back?
Well, if your people in the chat room think I should, okay. But
you guys want to vote on whether John should come back?
I don't want to bore them all to death too much. Yeah,
and you gotta. I want to hog you all to myself because you haven't done any podcast. You're going to get inundated.
I've got other requests before, and I just don't really feel like that I have that much to say or anything that's
oh my God.
There's a lot of people out there doing amazing stuff. David, I think I heard you say he was on next week.
Yes, he'll be. Well, he's doing our tech breakdown next week.
David and and some of the guys in the Olympic Project, like I say, Shane and those guys, they're doing great. Chris Spencer.
By the way, did you get to see the nest? Stuff. Did you get to go to the nest?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be invited into there very early on, not long after the nests were first discovered, the first nests. I've been in there several times. And very humbled and appreciative that I was allowed to be one of the people that got to go in and look at the nests. And I can't say more that I'm honored because I was allowed to go in and looking at them, helping kind of study them a little bit and moving around the area. Yeah, I can't think of anything else that they could be. Nothing makes sense other than a Sasquatch. to me.
Yeah, it's kind of like we don't know what built them, but we know what.
They're not just a haphazard.
Yeah, we know what didn't build them.
We know what did.
Yeah.
And the only thing that even remotely could be construed to me as a nest like that would be a bear. I have 3 or 4 bear nests across the river from my house that I've sat in numerous times, but the only real resemblance they have is that something laid there. Really, nothing like that.
Well, they crudely rake, forest stuff.
They just, exactly. They rake stuff up, and they just make a place to lay. And where these are constructed, there are branches stuck in the ground to help make the shape. They're gathering foliage from the surrounding area and transporting it to the nests, which is phenomenal. And at the same time, they doing it in locations that I can clue you are not nice to get to, are extremely thick. I mean, there's places where you're practically having to crawl down through the brush to get through it because it's so thick. It would not be a place I would want to go just for recreation because it's nasty to hike in. And they're also this has been discussed, and I won't go too deep into it because this is the Olympics project thing, but to me, they are very strategically located. They are put in places that if you wanted to hide and you didn't want anybody sneaking up on you, you would put your hiding spot. And so if anybody's coming towards where you are going to know they're coming and they can't sneak up on you, and you have escape routes to get out of there. That's the way they appear.
John, do you know how many people loved you tonight? Did you see all this?
Oh yeah,
but I had to, you know how many checks I had to send out for that?
Anyhow, 2 years it took me to talk you into coming on.
Well, yeah, but when are you going to come back out and visit me, Joe?
Soon. It'll be this summer.
Yeah.
Yep, I'll get out there.
I'd love to see you out there. And Alex, you need to come too so you can see what the Olympic Peninsula looks like.
Oh, it's so beautiful, Alex.
Sounds beautiful.
It's life-changing. It's that beautiful. Yeah,
well,
these guys are spoiled.
You can look through my pictures on Facebook and get a feel for it anyway.
John's place is like heaven. You have a river right in your backyard. You have a deck overlooking the river. Really, John? You stink.
No, I'm a very fortunate person.
You are.
I hit the lottery plus.
You did.
I did.
And you're also one of the nicest guys I've ever met, and you're also very kind and generous. And he was so worried. He's like, well, I don't want to bore
I'm gonna have to
anybody.
Double check.
Anyhow, with that, we're going to sign off.
I'm old news.
And we're going to get you back. We'll get you.
Thank you so much, Doug, Alex.
Yeah, thank you, John. Thanks everybody in chat, and including guys like Charles. And God, we've got. Oh, I see. We have Marcel, in chat even. Gee.
Mark.
Yeah, even Mark is there. We got a lot of good names in here.
Mark's awesome.
Yeah, he is. These are people that are changing the mystery.
Him and I, we love to talk history and stuff.
Yeah. There. All right. With that, we love y'all. Good night. Thanks, Alex.
All right.
Good night.
Thank you.
I call you up in the middle of the night. Been bothered by dreams, ain't feeling alright. You give me comfort, say just give it some time. By the end of our talk, I'm feeling just fine. You and I will always know where we belong. This ain't no ordinary